Peace, family. So, y'all, this is a story time, and I want to do the story time on how I almost lost my life fucking with Molly. Drugs, right? Okay, so this was back in like, I want to say 2014, and I'm living in Georgia, right? I would come up here for the summer. So this was a summer that, you know what I'm saying, I had brought the kids up here and we was, chilling and hanging out at my homegirl Tracy house, Tracy Black. And she stayed in Harold Goodman Circle. Now all of us had decided to get together and have like a big cookout, right? They was having some kind of event down at the park, but we was gonna have, you know what I'm saying, our own little shindig. So we was having a, you know what I'm saying, doing our thing, having a little cookout, and uh, I think I'm gonna refrain from saying like certain names because I listen. This isn't about them, and then I don't want to tell anybody else's story or anybody else's secrets. You understand what I'm saying? So I think I might like refrain from saying, you know what I'm saying, certain names dealing with certain things, especially where we got the, you know what I'm saying, the stuff from, because I don't know if he probably still out here killing the game, and I'm just not trying to bring no heat to nobody. But my homegirl's boyfriend at the time had went. We had all, I gave like $10, right? And he had went. Now, mind you, let me just say this. I had tried Molly 2 times before. And the Molly that I had tried before, it was like a glass. It looked like fucking glass. That's what it looked like. This particular Molly that they bought back it looked like powder. It looked like cocaine. And so I'm asking them like, yo, you know what I'm saying? What is it? Is it supposed to look like this? He was like, yeah, it could come in powder, it can come in that, the glass or the rock form. I'm like, okay, so all I did was this, right? I swear to y'all, all I did was I dipped my finger and I put it on my tongue. That's it. I dipped my finger and I put it on my tongue one time, but something in me, my other homegirls was like, nah, they wasn't fucking with it because to them, they kept saying it didn't look right. Like we had all, you know what I'm saying, done dibbled and dabbled a little bit. But like I said, we had never seen it in that fucking powder form. I was the only motherfucker, the only stupid one, dipped my hand in that daggone bag and put it on my tongue. And it was like my head started hurting. I started getting a throbbing pain in my head. It was literally immediately. I'm telling you, I had started getting a headache, but I really, you know what I'm saying, didn't pay no attention to it. I knew I wasn't going to do it no more because my homegirls was like, nah, they weren't fucking with it. So I walked out the room, right? But that whole day, my head, it seemed like it was hurting, and it was, I just had like a headache. You know what I'm saying? We was drinking, we was eating, we was hanging out. So we had went down there to the park, and I'm gonna insert a picture of all of us, you know what I'm saying, that day hanging out. We had went down to the park, and you know what I'm saying, was co-mingling and hanging out down there. Now, mind you, I was just chilling, but my head was hurting. I went through the whole day with a headache. So later on that night, they was having a party up at this is little sports bar. I forgot the name of it. A lot of us had started hanging out up there. It's on Branchview. I can't remember the exact name, but everybody, if you from Concord or Kannapolis, y'all know where I'm talking about. But they was having a fucking party or something up there, right? And so we decided, yeah, we was gonna go to the party. So we got dressed and, you know what I'm saying, headed to the party. Mind y'all, my head was still fucking hurting, but for some reason my little butt didn't want to go home, right? So as soon as we get to the party, my head has started hurting to a point like it was fucking like it was throbbing. I had never had no headache like that. It had turned into like a migraine, right? And so I started getting really dizzy. Started feeling like I had to throw. So I went to the restroom, and I went to the restroom, yo. I was overheating. I was so hot. My head was throbbing so bad, and I was throwing up. I was in the restroom coming out my freaking shirt. And so my homegirls came in there to check on me, and I was like, yo, something. I said, yo, I just don't feel good. I just don't feel good. So I'm in the bathroom stall when I tell y'all going through it. And so all I hear is, sis. And it was Fernell Phillips. He came in there, he looked at me, and he was like, sis, what's wrong with you? I was like, bro, I said, I do not know. I said, my head is hurting so bad. So he told my homegirls, he was like, yo, y'all take her home. He said, come on, sis. He said, yo, y'all take her home like right now. So they got me together. I put my shirt and shit back on, and they took me to the house, right? And I go in the house. My mama is in the house. My nephew Malik is there. And so I'm telling my mama, like, I need some pain pills because my head is hurting really, really bad, right? I need some pain pills. So my mama sent my nephew to the corner store to get me some Tylenol. And I told her I was hungry. So she was in the kitchen fixing me something to eat. I had stripped out of all my clothes. I was in my night clothes and I was laying on the living room floor, right? And I had to use the bathroom. So all I know is I went up to go use the bathroom. That is all I remember. When I woke up, I was in the fucking hospital. So when I woke up, literally, I woke up. All I know, I went to use the bathroom. I woke up, I was in a freaking hospital, having no clue at what the fuck happened. So I'm just looking around. My mama sitting here, Pee Wee, Courtney, Priscilla, all my homegirls in there. And everybody I'm talking about, everybody looking sad, but my mama face, y'all, I'm telling you, I ain't never ever seen my mama. It was so much fear and hurt in her face, and I kept looking like, what's wrong? And my mama was in tears, and she said, you almost died, Mika. You had a seizure. And I was like, I had a seizure. I had a seizure. And she was like, yeah, Mika. So at that time, they asked the homegirls and stuff like, as I went into seizure, okay, my mama's telling me what happened. She said she was in the kitchen cooking. She said all she heard was a boom. She said, so she run out the kitchen to come to the bathroom. She said, I was on the floor, foaming at the mouth in full freaking seizure. And so my nephew said all he heard was grandma, which is my mama, screaming. He said, so when he run in there, he said, I was gone. He said, so he calling 911. Then they getting on the phone with my homegirls like, yo, what the fuck did she tape this, that, and the damn third? So anyway, they get me to the hospital and come to find out, you know what I'm saying, I had a seizure. And so I'm sitting in there extremely embarrassed. When I say extremely embarrassed, because my family looking at me like I'm some kind of dope fiend or like, I'm some kind of, drug head or drug addict. And the doctor come in there. So the doctor is explaining to me what's going on. And he was like, yeah, we did a brain scan. And he was like, you had heroin, you had methamphetamine, and you had cocaine in your system. I'm looking at him like, you don't lost your mind. I said, I don't do no heroin, no cocaine, or no meth. That doctor looked at me and he was like, Miss Flake, he said, what you think is in Molly? Now I'm sitting here flabbergasted because y'all listen, I used to, any type of anything that I do, like I pride myself on being extremely knowledgeable on the shit that I put in my body. Because when I used to roll and do the ecstasy pills, like I had did so much fucking research. I knew everything that was in the pill. You know what I'm saying? It was different forms of the X pill. They had a cocaine base, a heroin base, and they all made you feel different. But I knew what I was freaking ingesting in my daggone body. And I also knew when it was time for me to let that, let that stuff go. So when he is sitting here talking to me and I'm ignorant to the fact of what the fuck Molly is, I was blowed. When I tell you I was fucking blowed, because I'm sitting here like heroin, fucking cocaine, fucking methamphetamine. And he was like, basically, it was like a cocktail. He said, now see, the doctor basically said, he said, your THC level is extremely high. He said, so I know you smoke a lot of weed. I said, yeah, I smoke plenty of weed. I said, but I don't do drugs. And he was like, that is why my body reacted the way that it did, because it wasn't something that my body was used to. It was something new and it was too fucking strong. The shit almost killed me, right? And so I just looked at my mom and I looked at her. This is what I told my mama. I told her I was apologizing. I was so sorry because I have children. And to scare her like that, I'm her child. I'm her baby. And to see that and think your child is going to die, I wouldn't have been able to stomach it. And I was so hurt for her. And I apologized to my mother. And I looked at my mama, her face that day, and I told her, I said, Mama, you ain't never, ever, ever got to worry about going through this again. I said, I promise you. And when I tell you, I ain't pick up I ain't touched nothing but weed since then. When I say you couldn't pay me to pop a fucking pill, to try a new drug or none of that, I just was not with it. I just could not get my mama face out of my brain, yo. She was devastated. And then so my big brother Pee Wee there, right? And if y'all know Pee Wee, honey, that's a good brother. That's the law abiding, you know what I'm saying, citizen. And girl, he's just looking at me like, Everybody just looking at me like I'm some kind of fucking crackhead or fucking some shit. So I'm sitting there to tell them like, yo, I don't do drugs, y'all. I'm not no fucking drug addict. I don't do drugs. You know what I'm saying? And I got to call my children's father. You understand? Because like I said, I lived in Georgia. I was just home for a summer. So I got to call this man and tell him I'm in the hospital because I don't OD'd and had a seat. Yo, when I tell you this, it was just like, he was done. He was like, yo, you're not going back to North Carolina. He said, so this is what you do? You get up there, you do drugs, now you turn it into a drug addict? I'm like, dude, no. I'm not a freaking drug addict. Like, it was just ignorance to my part. You understand me? So boom, fast forward. Now everybody on the hunt. Everybody 38 hot. Where the fuck she get it from? Whoop the whoop, whoop the whoop. Family ready to go. I'm telling them, y'all can't do that. Because nobody put a gun to my head for me to do that. That was a decision that I made. That was my ignorance, and I was not gonna allow anybody to try to go do nothing to anybody, because the guy who went and got it did not know. The guy who sold it to us did not know. That man called me and was so apologetic, yo. It was a bad batch. This is like you really play Russian roulette with your life when you fuck with drugs, because you really never the fuck know. You know what I'm saying? You never the fuck know if this gonna be your last time, right? And so he was so apologetic, and I was just like, bro, I said, I don't blame anybody. I don't blame absolutely anybody. I was like, it was something that I decided to do. It wasn't like y'all tricked me. You didn't know. I didn't think for 1 second that he made he knew that it was bad and was set. I didn't think that for 1 freaking second, y'all. And so after that, you know, I done got out the hospital, and so I'm walking through the bottom, like, and this the shit that really did it for me, right? This one I knew. I was like, yeah, nah, I'm done. Ain't no more drugs. People was coming up to me and they was just like trying to be so gentle, and they was, are you okay? And you know, like trying to handle me like delicate, like I'm a fucking infant or something. And I'm looking at, bitch, don't feel sorry for me, because I'm okay. Like, I don't like the pity party, you know what I'm saying, type stuff, because for me that, like, I'm not weak. You know what I'm saying? Mentally, physically, emotionally, I'm not weak. So I don't need a coddler. I don't need you to like hold my hand and, oh, is you okay? Yes, I'm okay. I fucked up, yo. I tried some shit and I did some shit and I almost died. But you know what I'm saying? I had to get that together, because I'm like, look, don't be coming up to me trying to, oh my God, is you that right there? I could not do. So yeah, now that's my story, y'all, on how I almost died trying Molly, and why I will never ever mess with that stuff ever again. Now I don't pop no pill. I'm just not all that hardcore stuff, baby. I'm sorry. Baby, that wasn't for me. I learned my lesson times 15. Peace, family.